The 8th of December, 1928. A kid just 14 years old, Michael O'Brien by name, finds himself positioned outside the mansion belonging to Al Capone on South Prairie Avenue in Chicago, gripping a crowbar, on the verge of making what would turn out to be the most catastrophic choice of his entire existence. 2 days from that moment, this very same young man would find himself seated inside Capone's private automobile, breathing, unhurt, and utterly baffled as to why America's most feared individual had chosen to spare his life rather than end it. What follows is the account of how that came to be. The Canaryville neighborhood is where Michael O'Brien spent his childhood, located in one of the most impoverished areas of Chicago's South Side. When Michael reached the age of 9, his father perished in an accident at a factory. Working 16 hours each day at a laundry service, his mother earned scarcely enough income to pay for their housing. Their living space consisted of a single room, no heating system included. During the winter months at night, Michael would pile every article of clothing he possessed on top of himself for warmth, yet still found himself trembling when he woke. At 14 years of age, Michael had begun performing small tasks for the neighborhood street gangs. Nothing particularly dangerous, merely carrying items from one place to another, standing watch, activities that prevented him from getting into genuine danger while simultaneously placing a small amount of money in his hands. The older members of these gangs held him in good regard. His intelligence showed, he kept conversations minimal, and he appeared reliably when expected. However, December of 1928 brought punishing conditions, representing the harshest winter Chicago had experienced in 2 full decades. Sickness overtook Michael's mother. The diagnosis was pneumonia, requiring medications beyond their financial reach. The income from gang-related activities had completely vanished. Poverty, desperation, and danger surrounded everyone. This particular set of circumstances led Michael to learn about a certain residence. The mansion belonging to Al Capone, situated on South Prairie Avenue, carried widespread fame. Its location was common knowledge throughout the city. 40 rooms comprised the structure, windows reinforced to be bulletproof, with a steel gate encircling the entire property. 2 years prior, Capone had purchased the estate for the sum of $50,000, representing an absolutely staggering figure for the year 1928. What remained unknown to most individuals was Capone's intermittent presence at this location. His time divided between Chicago and Florida, with occasional weeks spent away handling operations in additional cities. Guards protected the mansion, though their numbers decreased significantly during Capone's absences. During the initial days of December 1928, rumors circulating through the streets suggested Capone's presence in New York for conferences with fellow organized crime leaders. Tommy Rizzo provided Michael with this intelligence, a 19-year-old thief who had spent weeks conducting surveillance on the mansion. Tommy had formulated a strategy. The plan involved waiting until the security guards rotated their shifts at 3 o'clock in the morning hours, entering through a side window that failed to secure properly, collecting whatever items they could physically transport, and completing their exit in less than 5 minutes. A second participant was required by Tommy, someone possessing a small enough frame to pass through the window opening, quick enough to maintain stealth during movement, desperate enough to accept the inherent danger. Michael satisfied each of these 3 requirements. The arrangement called for an equal division, 50% to each participant. Whatever goods they managed to steal would be sold through Tommy's contact operating on Maxwell Street. The proceeds would be split evenly between them. Tommy calculated they might acquire merchandise valued between $2,000 and possibly $3,000. Items like jewelry, currency, silverware, essentially anything both portable and holding significant worth. The absolute insanity of this plan was not lost on Michael. Stealing from Al Capone bore no resemblance to robbing a commercial establishment or some affluent business owner. Capone had ended people's lives for lesser transgressions. Merely 2 months before this moment, an individual named Joe Aiello had attempted to intrude upon territory controlled by Capone. Aiello's corpse was discovered in an alleyway, bearing 59 bullet wounds. Yet Michael's mother required medication. The need was severe and immediate. $3,000 would provide the funds for medicine, cover their housing expenses, purchase food supplies for multiple months, potentially even allow Michael to abandon gang-related work and locate something lawful for employment. Therefore, on the 8th of December at 2:30 during the morning hours, Michael met Tommy at a location 3 blocks distant from Capone's estate. The air temperature registered at 12 degrees. Snow blanketed all surfaces. The roadways sat empty, apart from several intoxicated individuals staggering homeward from illegal drinking establishments. Tommy arrived equipped with a crowbar, a canvas sack, and a pocket timepiece for monitoring the security guard shift transition. Their position in an alley directly across from the mansion allowed observation. At precisely 3:02, 2 security guards exited through the front gate, proceeding down the street. The night shift reached its conclusion. The incoming guards would not make their arrival for an additional 10 minutes. This represented their opportunity window. Crossing the street, Tommy and Michael advanced along the eastern wall of the mansion, maintaining position within the shadowed areas. Bushes partially concealed the side window Tommy had previously identified. Using the crowbar, Tommy forced it open. The process consumed perhaps 20 seconds. The window swung toward the interior. Michael entered first. His smaller physical build enabled easier passage through the opening. He landed inside what appeared to be a storage area, darkness filling the space, furniture covered with protective sheets, creating clutter. Tommy's entrance followed, his landing producing a heavy impact sound that seemed impossibly amplified within the surrounding silence. Motion ceased as they froze in position, their hearing focused. No approaching footsteps reached their ears, no voices called out, no warning systems activated. Silence pervaded the house. Extracting a flashlight, Tommy maintained the illumination beam at a low angle. Movement carried them from the storage area into a corridor. Thick carpeting covered the floor, paintings decorated the walls, the type of extravagance Michael had only witnessed in printed publications. The strategy remained straightforward. The master bedroom would receive their attention initially, where they would seize jewelry and cash, followed by the study, where rumor suggested Capone maintained a safe. Attempting to break into the safe was not part of the plan. They would simply determine whether it stood open. Should it prove secured, they would accept whatever alternative items presented themselves. Ascending a staircase brought them to the second level. Location of the master bedroom followed. An enormous bed occupied the space, elaborate furniture filled the room, a closet matching the entire size of Michael's living quarters. Tommy moved directly toward the dresser, beginning to extract drawers. Michael conducted his examination of the nightstands. At this precise moment, everything collapsed into chaos. Michael detected the sound initially. Footsteps, heavy, multiple individuals ascending the stairs with speed. Tommy's hearing caught it simultaneously. All color drained from his face. 10 minutes should have remained available to them. The replacement guards were not scheduled to arrive yet. The footsteps intensified in volume. Voices became audible now. Men engaged in conversation, advancing down the hallway in the direction of the bedroom. Tommy made a desperate movement toward the window, but their position on the second floor eliminated any simple escape route. Frantically, Michael's eyes searched the space. The closet, beneath the bed, no hiding location existed that would not prove immediately obvious. The bedroom door swung open. 3 men entered the space, but these were not security guards. Well-tailored suits and fedora hats identified these individuals as the caliber of people working in direct service to Capone. Following behind them, impossibly, stood Al Capone himself. Capone's presence in Chicago should not have been possible. New York was supposed to hold his location. Nevertheless, there he stood, 5 feet 7 inches in height, stocky in build, clothed in an expensive gray suit, a cigar held in his mouth. His face displayed that widely known scar extending down the left side of his cheek. The expression he directed at Michael and Tommy conveyed not quite anger, but rather curiosity blended with slight irritation. Nobody initiated movement. Michael found breathing impossible. This moment represented his death. 14 years of life, ending with gunfire in Al Capone's bedroom as consequence for attempting jewelry theft. Removing the cigar from his mouth, Capone spoke. "What's your age, kid?" The inquiry targeted Michael. Tommy remained frozen, offering no assistance. 14, Michael succeeded in stating. His voice broke during the word. 14. Capone's head moved in a slow nod. "And your mind told you that breaking into my residence represented intelligent planning. You believed I would remain ignorant of this. You assumed consequences would not follow." Michael offered no response. What possible statement could he provide? Capone's attention turned toward his men. Remove the older individual downstairs. Keep him secured. 2 members of Capone's group seized Tommy, removing him from the room by force. Tommy mounted no resistance. He appeared on the verge of losing consciousness. The room now contained only Michael, Capone, and a single remaining associate. Moving closer, Capone studied Michael as though attempting to solve some puzzle. "Canaryville is where you come from?" Michael's head moved in acknowledgement. "Your father no longer lives." Michael repeated the nodding gesture. Capone possessed this knowledge somehow. "Your mother suffers from illness?" Another affirmative nod. A smile appeared on Capone's face. The expression, however, lacked friendliness. This was the smile belonging to someone who possessed complete knowledge, who maintained informants everywhere, who had likely gained awareness of this robbery attempt prior to Michael and Tommy even climbing through the window opening. "Do you understand what my proper course of action should be regarding you?" Capone inquired. Michael provided no answer. Creating an example would be appropriate, demonstrating to every young criminal throughout Chicago the consequences that follow stealing from Al Capone. Michael's legs felt as though they might fail to support him. He had witnessed the outcomes befalling those who betrayed Capone. Bodies located in alleyways, vanishings that received no explanation, families who departed Chicago suddenly during nighttime hours. However, that action will not be taken, Capone stated. Michael's eyes blinked. "What did you say?" "My statement was that creating an example from you will not occur." "Would you like to understand the reason?" Michael shook his head negatively. "The reason is you possess courage. Foolish courage, admittedly, but courage nonetheless. Your age is 14 years. Your father has died. Your mother approaches death. Rather than engaging in street begging or quietly accepting starvation, you break into my residence. That requires something." Capone walked to the window, his gaze directed outward at his property. "That single guard you observed? His employment is with me. 3 years of service now. Loyal individual, excellent at performing his duties." Michael failed to comprehend the direction this conversation traveled. "Do you imagine his departure from his assigned position occurred by chance? Do you believe he simply and randomly chose to take a walk at the exact moment you two made your appearance?" The understanding struck Michael with the force of a physical blow. "This was within your knowledge?" "Naturally, I possess this knowledge. Everything occurring within my city reaches my awareness. Some young person makes inquiries regarding my security measures. The information returns to me within approximately 6 hours. Do you believe my current position was achieved through carelessness? For what reason did you permit our entry?" Capone rotated to face him once more. "The reason was my desire to observe what type of young person attempts to rob Al Capone, my wish to determine whether stupidity or desperation motivated you. As it happens, both qualities apply." Michael's thoughts raced frantically. If Capone's knowledge extended this far, if this entire situation represented an orchestrated setup, then Tommy's information, the complete plan, all of it had been fabricated. "Your companion currently downstairs," Capone continued his statement. "His age is what, 22? 23, perhaps?" 23, Michael responded quietly. "And this individual persuaded you this plan held merit, informed you of my absence from town, told you about guard shift changes, promised you this would represent easy money acquisition. That is correct. Here is the actual sequence of events. That fool heard certain rumors, assembled a poorly conceived plan, and involved a kid in the scheme because he required someone with a small enough build to fit through window openings. Genuine research never occurred. Real information was never obtained. He simply gambled with both your lives due to insufficient intelligence to recognize better judgment. Michael considered Tommy's confidence, his repeated assurances that comprehensive planning had occurred. Guesswork had formed the entirety of it. So what follows from this moment? Michael asked the question. Capone positioned himself on the edge of his bed, drawing deeply from his cigar. At this point, you face a choice. Police can receive my call, resulting in your arrest. Your age of 14 years would probably result in 1 year, possibly 2, within juvenile detention facilities. Your mother's death would occur during your incarceration period. Your release would find you possessing nothing and nobody. Michael experienced a tightening sensation in his throat. Alternatively, Capone proceeded with his statement, "Employment with me represents an option. Working for you? Runners are needed by me, young people capable of moving through the city without drawing notice. Your tasks would involve delivering messages, collecting packages, reporting observations. Nothing involving danger initially. Good performance in your work leads to advancement. Sufficient money gets earned to provide your mother with genuine medical attention. Perhaps her survival occurs. Perhaps death still comes. At minimum, the attempt was made. This outcome had not entered Michael's expectations. Death had been expected, or, at minimum, a severe beating. This felt like something entirely different. For what reason would such an offer be extended to me? Your youth allows for learning, Capone explained. Your age provides usefulness, and your desperation ensures loyalty. Those represent the 3 qualities I seek in people. Consider your friend in the lower level. None of those 3 things apply to him. He represents merely a fool who experienced good fortune tonight. I find myself in favorable spirits. What becomes of Tommy? That smile appeared on Capone's face again. Tommy will be departing Chicago this very night. Should intelligence guide him, his travel will continue until California is reached. Should I ever witness him again? Should I ever receive reports of his operations anywhere near territory I control, his death will follow. However, you possess potential. Michael attempted to process this information. 60 minutes previously, his actions involved breaking into a mansion, hopes focused on stealing sufficient funds to assist his mother. Presently, recruitment by America's most powerful gangster was occurring. An answer is required from me, Capone stated. Are you accepting or declining? Should your answer be no, departure from here follows. Release will be granted to you. However, the offer experiences no repetition. When your mother's death occurs in 3 weeks' time due to your inability to afford medication, memory of this moment will return. Memory will return of possessing an opportunity and allowing fear to prevent acceptance. This lacked fairness. Nothing about this entire situation possessed fairness. However, Capone's statement held truth regarding one matter. Michael's mother approached death. Money was absent. Prospects were absent. Options were absent. What would my required actions be? Michael posed the question. At this immediate time, observation and learning, attention and listening. People in my employment will provide instruction on operational methods, movement through the city, communication with police officers, message delivery without detection. 6 months of that performance, reliability receives demonstration. Subsequently, discussion occurs regarding future progression, and sufficient earnings to assist my mother would result. Weekly earnings would exceed your father's monthly income. However, theft from me must not occur. Lies to me must not occur. Communication with police must not occur. Violation of any of these rules results in, and my previous statement regarding example creation, that becomes reality. Is this clear to you? Michael's head moved in acknowledgement. Spoken confirmation is required from me. My acceptance is given. Standing up, Capone walked across the space, his hand extended forward. Michael accepted the handshake. Capone's grip possessed firmness, his hand surprisingly soft considering his reputation. "Excellent." Toward the door, Capone called out, "Frankie, enter this room." The associate who had remained in the space stepped forward. "This individual is Frankie Nitti," Capone stated. "He will function as your superior. Actions he commands require your completion when he commands them. Questions are not to be asked. Frankie, this is Michael. Our employment of him begins now." Nitti's eyes examined Michael from head to foot. "He's a young person. He's our young person at present," Capone stated. "Get him cleaned, provide him with decent clothing, discover his mother's location, ensure she possesses what she requires. Subsequently, assign him to work." "Understood, sir," Nitti responded. Capone's gaze settled on Michael one final time. "The correct choice has been made by you, kid. Don't create reason for me to regret providing you this chance." Following Nitti out of the bedroom, through the hallway, down the stairs, Michael proceeded. Within the foyer, Tommy occupied a seated position on the floor, two of Capone's men surrounding him. Upon seeing Michael, relief flooded across his face. "Are we acceptable?" Tommy asked the question. "Chicago will no longer contain you," Nitti stated with a flat tone. "Tonight represents your departure. A train destined for Los Angeles departs in 2 hours' time. Your presence on it will occur. Should your return ever happen, should your name ever reach our hearing again, your end arrives. Is this understood?" Tommy's head nodded with frantic energy. "Yes. Yes. Understanding is complete. Gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Capone. Thank you. Remove him from this location," Nitti instructed the guards. Tommy was seized by them, pulled in the direction of the door. One final glance back at Michael occurred from Tommy, speech beginning to form, then reconsideration happening. The doors closing followed his exit. "Come along," Nitti said to Michael. "A lengthy night lies ahead." Walking to a black Cadillac positioned in the circular driveway occurred. The driver's seat received Nitti. Michael climbed in adjacent to him. As driving through the gates away from the estate proceeded, Michael's eyes looked back at the mansion. 12 hours before this moment, robbery of it had formed his plan. At present, employment existed with the man possessing ownership of it. "Your mother," Nitti stated, his eyes not directed at Michael. "What is her location?" "Street. Mary's Hospital. Room 204 is where she is." "Our first destination will be that location," he stated. "Relocation to a superior facility will occur. Private accommodations, genuine physicians, whatever requirements exist. For what reason? The reason is Mr. Capone's statement of this. The reason is your employment with us at present. Care for our people occurs as long as loyalty maintains." Michael's head moved in acknowledgement, observation of Chicago streets passing by through the window glass occurring. Everything had undergone transformation. Whether a deal had been made or a soul had been sold represented the question. Discovery of the answer would occur with sufficient time. 3 days following that event, Michael's first assignment arrived. Nitti collected him at dawn outside his mother's new hospital room at Northwestern Memorial, a private facility. Clean bed linens, nurses who performed actual checking on her condition, bills paid completely. "Are you ready?" Nitti asked. "Ready for what?" "For work." Driving to a warehouse on the south side occurred. Inside, 20 men performed loading of crates onto trucks. Whiskey. Canadian whiskey smuggled across the border, currently receiving distribution to illegal drinking establishments across Chicago. "Simplicity defines your task," Nitti stated. "Counting the crates, entering each truck, represents your action. The number receives your written record. The paper receives my possession at the day's conclusion. That represents the entirety. That represents the entirety? Do you believe it possesses ease?" The previous kid performing this task for us began skimming activities, taking a portion, selling bottles through independent channels. The belief was our noticing would not occur. What became of him? An answer was not provided by Nitti. The need for one did not exist. 12 hours within that warehouse were spent by Michael counting crates, recording numbers, his hand experiencing cramping, his eyes burning from the dust presence. Complaints were not voiced, break requests were not made. Counting simply continued. At the day's conclusion, Nitti conducted review of his numbers, checking them against the driver manifests. Perfect matching occurred throughout. Good, Nitti stated, an envelope being handed to Michael. Tomorrow, identical time. Opening of the envelope occurred later. $50, exceeding his father's 2-week earnings at the factory. Continuation of the work followed. Counting crates, recording numbers. Simple, tedious, but honest within the dishonest framework surrounding bootlegging operations. Early arrival every day occurred from Michael. Complaints never emerged. Mistakes never happened. Following 2 weeks, Nitti expanded the responsibilities assigned. Presently, whiskey quality checking also fell to Michael, ensuring bottles had not received watering down prior to speakeasy arrival. Trust was required. Access to inventory easily subject to theft was required. Not a single drop experienced theft by Michael. 1 month into the work, Capone himself made appearance at the warehouse. "How is performance from the kid?" Capone asked Nitti. "Perfect," came the response. "Not a single discrepancy exists. On-time arrival occurs. His mouth remains shut. Questions receive no asking." Walking to where Michael performed bottle inspection, Capone approached. Michael's eyes looked upward immediately, straighter standing occurring. "Enjoyment of the work?" Capone inquired. "The work possesses honesty," Michael stated. Then self-correction occurred. "Meaning it represents understanding of your meaning occurs," Capone smiled. "Honesty exists in the manner holding importance. Performance of your supposed actions occurs. Cheating against me does not occur. That represents honesty within my world." "Yes, sir. Improvement in your mother's condition is what I hear. Walking again is occurring." Michael's throat experienced tightening. "Yes, sir. The doctors state possible home return next month." "Excellent. Importance belongs to family. Memory of that should be maintained. Everything receiving our doing, family represents the purpose." Capone paused, Michael's face receiving study. "That night when robbery of me received your attempt, does thinking about it occur? Every day brings those thoughts. Does regret exist?" Lying received Michael's consideration, decision against it followed. "Regret exists for possessing sufficient desperation to make the attempt. Regret does not exist for the resulting outcome." Genuine laughter came from Capone, a sound echoing through the warehouse. "That represents a smart answer. Very smart indeed." Continuation of being smart, Michael. Smart maintains you within operations. 3 months later, expansion of Michael's responsibilities occurred again. Presently, delivery accompaniment represented his actions, ensuring whiskey reached the correct illegal establishments, payment collection occurring, cash being returned to Nitti, gun carrying became involved. Potential danger became involved, but respect also became involved. Knowledge existed among speak-easy owners that Michael's work occurred directly for Capone. Timely payment occurred. Price arguments did not occur. Treatment of a 17-year-old kid as someone important occurred because within Capone's organization, importance belonged to him. 4 months following that night at the estate, Michael's mother returned home. Weight gain had occurred. Color had returned to her face. Walking without assistance was possible. The doctors termed it a miracle. Michael termed it loyalty. Payment for everything had come from Capone. The treatment, the medication, the private accommodations, the rehabilitation. Thousands of dollars, possibly tens of thousands. Requests for return never occurred. Holding it over Michael's head never occurred. This simply represented actions taken for people in your employment. That represented the trick, the understanding Capone possessed, superior to anyone. Fear did not purchase loyalty. Compliance got purchased by fear. People performing minimum necessary actions to avoid punishment got purchased by fear. Generosity purchased loyalty. Taking care of people's families purchased it. Solving problems appearing unsolvable purchased it. Firewalking would have been done by Michael for Capone, not from fear of him, but from Capone's saving of his mother's life. When the federal authorities started circling, that loyalty proved its value. In 1931, 2 years following that night within the mansion, the government finally discovered a prosecution method for Capone. Not for bootlegging operations, not for the violence, for tax evasion. Years had been spent constructing the case, tracking his income, documenting his spending, creating a financial trail that even Capone's lawyers could not explain away. Observation of its unfolding occurred from Michael, watching federal agents conducting warehouse raids, seizing records, arresting associates. Collapse did not occur to the organization, but fracturing did. Running occurred from some people, deals got made by some people, disappearance occurred for some people. One evening, Nitti called Michael in. "Capone desires to see you." Driving to the Lexington Hotel, Capone's headquarters, occurred. Federal agents conducted observation from cars across the street. Everyone possessed knowledge the end approached. Within his suite, Capone sat surrounded by lawyers and accountants. Tired appearance showed. The trial was draining him. The certainty of prison represented something worse. "Michael," Capone stated, "come to this location." Departure from the others occurred, privacy being provided. Michael took a seated position. 2 glasses received whiskey pouring from Capone, one sliding across the table. "3 years with me have now occurred from you," Capone stated. "Never has a problem been caused, never has reason been given to doubt you. That possesses rarity. Gratitude, sir. Prison will receive me. Knowledge of this belongs to you. Everyone possesses this knowledge. The question is, what happens to people like you when my absence occurs?" A long drink was taken by Capone. "Nitti will run things during my absence. Solid character. Trust can be placed in him. However, transformation will occur to the organization. Numerous people will attempt power grabbing. Danger will exist for a period." Listening occurred from Michael. Waiting continued. 19 years represents your age now, sufficient age for making your own choices. Continuation inside. Does desire for that exist? Nitti will provide care for you. Desire for departure exists? Now represents the time. Establishment in legitimate business will occur from me, construction or transportation. Something clean. Your mother possesses health. Options belong to you. Thought about this had occurred from Michael. Constant thought about it. The life had provided good things to him, superior to anything imaginable that freezing night outside the mansion. However, the cost had also received his observation. Men entering prison had been seen. Bodies receiving removal from warehouses had been seen. Families experiencing destruction had been seen. "Departure represents my desire," Michael stated quietly. Slow nodding came from Capone. "Smart. Smarter than my intelligence at your age." An envelope was pulled out by him, thick with cash. $20,000. "Yours this is. Clean money. As clean as existence allows within my world. Taking of that occurs. Legitimate something receives your starting. Backward-looking never occurs." The envelope received Michael's taking. The weight of it received his feeling. "One more thing exists," Capone stated. "That night, when robbery of me received your attempt, I told you everything possessed my knowledge. Complete truth was not that. Knowledge of your coming did not belong to me. The guard did not provide tip-off. Early return home from New York simply happened to occur. Wrong place, wrong time for you." Staring at him came from Michael. "You stated, 'Knowledge of my statement occurs, but here exists the truth.' Luck belonged to you that night. Lucky that my presence occurred instead of my men's. Lucky that something in you worth saving received my observation. Lucky that a mood for providing chances existed instead of bullets. Most kids in your position, death would have found them. Understanding of that exists in you? Yes. Excellent. The reason is, luck experience is running out. Everyone's luck eventually runs out. Mine experience is running out presently. Yours might possess longer duration if smart behavior occurs about it. Therefore, be smart." Standing up occurred from Capone, his hand extended. Final time this is, shaking of it occurred from Michael. Good performance came from you, kid. Pride would have belonged to your father. Departure from the Lexington Hotel that night occurred from Michael. Return never happened. Capone's money received use for opening a construction business. Marriage occurred. 3 children resulted. Quiet living on the North Side followed. When 1947 brought Capone's death, funeral attendance occurred from Michael, standing in the back, respects receiving payment, conversation with nobody occurring. Full storytelling to his children never occurred. Explanation of the money's origin never occurred. Mention never occurred of that night in December 1928 when 14 years of age, desperation, and sufficient stupidity to rob America's most dangerous man belonged to him, the man who saved him instead of killing him, the man who understood that sometimes the best investment exists not in violence or fear, but in providing desperate kids a chance to become something better. That represented Al Capone's real trick, the one receiving no discussion when stories about machine guns and massacres get told. Knowledge belonged to him that loyalty built on gratitude lasted longer than loyalty built on terror. For one poor kid from Canaryville, that understanding made all the difference.